I always say social media is like dating.
Yeah.
It's exactly like dating. And no one loves anybody who has no personality.
Yeah, for sure.
You can be educated, aka the educational videos. You can say all the right things, so you can message them back. But if you have no personality,
Yeah. It's a no-go.
you're undateable.
Uh-oh.
You're undateable.
Hi, I'm Josh Owen. As the owner of a video marketing company in New Orleans, I've been on the quest to learn everything I can about marketing. Everyone has a different style, different strategy, and a different experience. Is there a wrong way to do it? A right way to do it? Let's find out together as we make marketing make sense. Welcome everybody to another fantastic, fabulous, amazing episode of Make Marketing Make Sense. Today I'm joined by Allison, Herrera of Uptown Girl Media. You are the owner, the founder, the one, the only that made this thing possible. Welcome in.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today. I've been loving all of the podcasts y'all have been making.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it really is an honor to be here.
Nice. All right. We love it when someone's seen the podcast. That's good signs. Good omen. We're gonna have a good show. Yeah. Well, thank you for joining in. So today we're going to talk about building community specifically for medical type businesses. Something that I'm really intrigued by because all these businesses are kind of, they don't get talked about a lot. So I'm really curious to hear all about it from you. I know you've had a lot of experience with working with them. Just to start with, what is your experience with these brands?
So for a lot of medical industries here, it's not our only client, but It just happens to be, we do have a lot of them.
Yeah.
So we run a lot of their social media, and that includes Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. So we do other things too, of course.
Right, of course.
It just happens to be this is the number one requested service, and we do have a plethora of medical clients. So
well, especially when we're talking about social media, everybody's wants a healthy social media, and they want to have a community on social media. I think that's a big thing. To you, what does that look like? What does a healthy community on social media look like?
To me, it's all about engagement. So you can have all of the likes and all of the followers in the world and all of this and that, but all it really rounds out to be is just engagement. So without engagement, you have no community. With no community, you have no engagement. So the thing that really binds you together are all of those, support systems, the likes, the comments, the DMs, the everything. So that's really what it is, all about engaging.
Yeah, and I guess, I guess we're jumping right into the nitty-gritty, but, how do you build that engagement? Especially for, like, these medical businesses, I feel like they're so used to, I am a doctor, I am a dentist, I know my thing, but they're, what they know is way up here, and what all we know is down here.
Right.
How do you bridge that gap?
Yeah, so most of the time, there's a lot of things that go into this. It's a really broad question that you just asked me, but I'll tell you little by little. So the number one thing that I focus on when I walk in and I start my job with them is branding. Your brand identity, who are you, where are you going with the practice, or, I'm trying to think. It's really just brand identity.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you align with as a brand, not you as an individual? So your company, what does it represent? If it was a person, who would it be? You can think of someone famous, a fictional character, anything of that matter. So the first thing is getting your branding down. The second thing after that is kind of focusing on your goals. So do you want people to book services with you, which most of the time it is yes. People do want those services booked. So from there, we try to focus on talking to people in layman's terms. So I often tell my clients, talk to me like I'm 5 years old.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of go from there and we build content. So a graphic or a video, but we also make sure they sound extremely professional because we don't want someone saying, talking like a baby, but, break it down so someone can fully understand. Yeah,
that's awesome. Those are those are three great things I think a lot of people don't really even, or they may not take it as seriously as they should be, So breaking those things down, branding, a lot of us, what does the correct branding that you need to represent on social media look like? Especially a lot of these people, doctors, what is my brand? I don't know. Do I have to have a brand?
Right. And they oftentimes have no idea what I'm talking about. So whenever I talk to any client, whether it's a doctor or a restaurant owner, they just don't understand the concept of branding, but that's totally fine. So when I meet with this client or any client, whatever client it is, I say, what is happening here that you want to duplicate that resonation online. So it really has to be a seamless transition. You can't be posting, neon, colorful things, and then you go to your office and it's that all white aesthetic. So whatever is going on online should be going on in person. Whatever's going on in person should really be going on online. And that's, the same for personality and fonts and colors. So again, if I have an all white aesthetic at my doctor's office, then I would hope that it would translate well on social. The language that they use inside the office, I would hope it would translate also on social. Because to do that, that's how you build your community. If someone goes to one, your page or your website or your office, and it doesn't translate through other resources or other platforms, they're just going to be so confused. And nobody feels comfortable working with someone who doesn't know their own identity,
I mean, you're definitely right. I mean, sometimes I have to ask myself, who am I? So luckily.
Every morning when you wake up,
I look in that mirror, who am I? But luckily, I know, at the end of the day, you ask that question and you learn,
Right.
But a lot of us, we forget to ask the question.
Yeah, always. I think that's the number one mistake that marketers do is they just jump in and start doing the job, but you can't do the job without knowing who is this company. What do they represent? What do they stand behind? Are they going to be a Times New Roman or a Comic Sans? Now, we don't use either of those fonts, but I do know.
Okay. No endorsements here. Okay.
I don't know our audience. I do know I'm a fan of the podcast, but, for people who aren't really sure, two different fonts, of course. Right. And so one goes with one client and one goes with another, but usually they both never go together.
Right.
So the thing is finding out what fonts and what colors. I mean, if you're hot pink and sparkles in your office, you're not going to be beige and white online. Yeah. You have to really align across the board. Yeah.
Well, and definitely that's a huge factor with aesthetics. What about, for the content itself? Like, what kinds of content do you think are really working well to really build that brand identity, build that community? Like, what kind of, is it, I mean, especially if we're talking like videos and, because I know you do a lot of videos, like what kind of stuff are you posting that really you're always like, all right, well, let's make sure we do this to really build that brand?
Well, if you were asking a question to my client, so one of the doctors, their response would be extremely different. So their response would be, oh, it's the educational things. The educational where I break down a surgery or a procedure or whatever. And to me, those are wonderful. Those are great. They build your credibility and they answer tons of questions because it could potentially book you more patients or more procedures, whatever. But to build a community, that doesn't really build a community. Yeah. That just takes the people who you've already brought in and, that's how you book a service. Right.
Re-engages with them in some ways, yeah.
Right. But what builds the community is when people are authentic. So when they put themselves out there and they show their team members, or maybe they do a funny little video, or maybe they talk about how they perform certain, not procedures, medical procedure, but how, hey, you come here and you enter through this door and you come through the elevator, kind of teaching people how to come to the office. So nothing that's complicated. You build a community by the really simple stuff. Just showcasing who you are, what you stand for, holiday messages. Yeah. Holiday messages do well, and it builds a community.
It's all that personality. It's like you're kind of saying, like, hey, you need to build your personality. You need to, and like, I want to know what it feels like to be there as a, social interaction with you as a doctor, one-on-one. And that's kind of what you're suggesting is like
Absolutely.
how to... Oh, bless me. Oh, God dang. All right. We're getting one out of there. But yes, I'm going to say that again because I was like the whole time I was thinking, I've got to sneeze and there's no way I'm going to get over that. So it's kind of like you're building personality, and that's a really big key factor that you're doing there. Is I think with a lot of people, myself included, I think so many times, you used to be able to trust like the star rating, like 5 stars. It's like, oh man, look at all the 5 stars. But now I can't even trust those 5 stars because it's like,
and there's so many 5 stars.
Yeah, exactly.
Too.
It's like
so
they can't all be that good. No one's that on point every time.
And you choose certain people to do certain things. I always say social media is like dating. Yeah, it's exactly like dating. And no one loves anybody who has no personality.
Yeah, for sure.
You can be educated, aka the educational videos. You can say all the right things, so you can message them back. But if you have no personality,
It's a no-go.
You're undateable.
Uh-oh.
You're undateable. But I think the big thing is that, like you're saying, there are so many 5 stars, and some of them really aren't 5 stars. And then you have a glimpse in that life, or a glimpse inside the office behind the scenes through these, videos where you really introduce your team members and introduce who you are, and you give them a kind of insight, followers and audiences, an insight of your life and your clinic and your office. But even all the 5 stars who are 5 stars, you don't pick someone just because they have 5 stars. You pick them because you click with them, you resonate with them, maybe you feel connection with them. And you can't feel a connection just through an educational video or just through an educational graphic. It's really through those heartfelt moments. It's like in New Orleans, everybody says, "Where'd you go to high school?" And there's a million high schools, right? Yeah, there's like a million high schools to pick from, but people choose one because they felt a connection, or they feel a certain way, or maybe their mom went there, so I'll go there, or their dad, or whatever. But it's kind of the same when picking a doctor. They're all great in concept, but you feel connection, or you feel pulled, or maybe your parents went here or whatever. You're going to have like some kind of connection through that.
That's so true. It's almost like, picking a doctor is so innocuous that you could just go anywhere, but, at least make people feel like they went to you because they chose you, instead of because they're just happen to be there because you're the doctor they had to pick, Well, and so with that, how do you start to get more eyeballs and get on that engagement? Like, how do you start to really build that, that community? Like, how do you get new people to see from your community? Like, what are the strategies?
What's the secret sauce?
What's your strategies? What are you doing?
So one of the things that we like to do is we create content that's shareable. So if we do a graphic, if we create a graphic and it's something that resonates with a lot of people, we like to think, would this be shareable? Would this be something that if you see it, you would share it with a friend or a family member or a loved one? So shareable content, keeping that in mind, because we're posting not just to post, we're posting with a purpose. And then videos, whenever we do a video, we always like to pick trending audio because it'll always come up and loop back.
Right.
You don't want to pick a trending audio that has so many uses, but you don't want to pick one that doesn't have barely any. You want to kind of hit a sweet spot.
A sweet spot for that secret recipe sauce.
Secret recipe sauce. You need that sweet spot. But once you do that, you're going to be visible in a lot more people's platforms. Keywords, even your caption, your search engine optimization on social media platforms, that's now a thing. A lot of people don't realize that. So if I'm talking about a facelift or I'm talking about Botox, what I might put in there, if I'm talking about Botox, there's other muscle relaxer and injectable brands. So maybe I'll tag those brands underneath in a hashtag. So, instead of, maybe you're not a fan of that. So I'm going to put you under whatever one you're using, whatever injectable you're using. So, facelifts, things like that. If I am thinking my face is feeling sunken, I think I need a lift, I'm going to put those little keywords in there too. So whether they're a hashtag or just a word in the caption itself, maybe like hashtag sunken face, hashtag refreshed look, hashtag, or in the caption, are you feeling like you have a sunken look? Do you want a refreshed face? Things like that. So the keywords are really key. Yeah. Keywords are key.
You got to key on back on those keywords right there.
Those come keywords. On back. This SEO, you have so many options and you have so many opportunities. But so I said music, I said keywords,
you
shareable
got the gambit
content.
right there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and the big thing, of course, is keeping that algorithm running. You want to keep interacting. Social media was created on the basis to connect people and to engage with people and interact with people. When you stop doing that, your social success is going to kind of come to a halt. Yeah. So as long as you can keep feeding the algorithm and feeding it as in, what I mean by feeding it means interacting with people, the sole purpose of these apps. Yeah. When you do what the sole purpose is of something, you're going to see results. Yeah. So keep interacting with people, respond,
Make it feel like a community.
Yeah, make it feel like a community. Yeah. You may even want to reach out to people. So, if I have a client who says, I'm targeting bride-to-be's, then maybe we'll start targeting or we'll start messaging and making messages known for bridal. So
is this like, in these messages, are they messages that you're like selling them on something, or is it just like a hello, how
I
are
mean, it
you?
just depends. So if we're having a sale for a bride, a get ready for your wedding, or, maybe a festival. So maybe it's not a wedding package. Maybe it's festival season. Or we know we want to target festival goers because we're trying to sell this sunscreen, our products here. So we start messaging them, or maybe we start tagging them in things, or tagging places that they go in things, or maybe hashtagging things like hashtag JazzFest 2024, 2024
Right.
Jazz Fest.
Yeah.
So you have little opportunities like that.
Yeah.
You don't always have to just be like, hey, in their DMs,
Yeah.
you should
buy
buy
my
our product.
stuff.
Buy my product.
Yeah.
Buy my services.
Buy now. Get in there.
Hi,
Yeah.
buy now.
Yeah, and then that works every time.
And then you
No,
ghost.
and then ghost them. Yeah, and then you just never come back. Works every time. Works like a charm. We love that strategy.
From personal experience, always.
Man, all right, you learned the quick tips here.
The quick tips,
Yeah.
yeah. But really, you have so many opportunities.
Yeah.
You could slide into DMs, or you
Right.
could just target subliminally. So
Yeah. That's awesome. I mean, because you're basically suggesting like building as a community, but with all of these things in mind, what are like the metrics that you're kind of keying in on? Like, what are the things you really want to pay attention to? The things you want to boost, the things you don't want to boost. Like, what is that for you?
yeah. So, what are you thinking in particular? Like any type of content?
I mean, well, that's a good point. I mean, well, we kind of talked about a lot of different types. So, like
Right.
with the video content, obviously, that's one thing. So I guess we can start with there, and then if you want to keep continuing on, we can talk about maybe also the posts that you do that are outside of video content, stuff like that.
So I think the big thing for video is if we're seeing a strong reaction from a video, we're gonna kind of take the template, so the secret sauce, and put it onto another option. So one that did really well was this really silly video of a doctor and a Taylor Swift voiceover.
Oh,
And it did really
Swift.
well.
Get some good.
Always. She always does.
Yeah, she kills it.
Whether you like her or you don't, it's just...
That's the point. Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
She's got the magic.
She's got the magic touch. But we hopped on a trend before
Yeah.
it was actually a trend.
Right.
As marketers, part of our job is to predict things. And I, thought... I had a theory. I said, I think this is going to be big. Let's just jump on this train. It was huge. It attracted so many people.
Wow.
It was a successful reel in terms of numbers, in terms of interaction, in terms of everything. It just was very successful. But what I saw in that was people like this. They like to see these silly moments. And we haven't hit a spot where nobody has, stopped liking it in whole.
Yeah.
But we do have moments where maybe we need to push out more education. So when we push out education, I measure that success not based on the likes and the comments, but based on the FAQs I might get afterwards. Or
the real interest, the
Yeah.
real invested
it
interest.
could be a comment, but it might be a message.
Yeah.
It might be, someone's interested in something of it. Or maybe they book a service of that afterwards.
Yeah.
I know we're talking about med, but I actually had a coffee house client.
Ooh, I love
And
coffee.
I do too. I love them. Have.
Have?
I have a coffee house
You have
client.
had.
I have
Had one at one
I've
point.
had at
yeah.
one point, and I still do. But they're wonderful. And one of their flavor of the months was wedding cake.
Ooh.
But their numbers that whole month were rotten. They were garbage, as I'd like to say. Garbaggio.
Sad.
And we were doing everything that we always done, but just
Yeah.
because you do the same thing over and over
Right.
again doesn't mean it's the right thing. So I looked and I said, well, what could have we done differently? How could we be more successful? But as we were rolling into that next month, kind of doing the same thing too that we've done in the past, that next month was successful. So I thought to myself, maybe it's the drink? And so I asked the coffee shop manager, I said, what are your numbers for this wedding cake latte? Like, what happened with that? No, that was not a big seller. So from there, that told us that wedding cake is not a flavor that their patrons or audience resonates well with. So on social, the people who are in that audience, they're, a quirky, fun bunch. They're not the wedding cake crowd.
Right.
They are not at all.
Like, we're not getting married.
No,
Right,
we're not getting married.
Yeah, that's wild.
But they love all the other the chocolates and
Yeah.
the fun, things like that.
Yeah.
So it really showed us that, one, maybe they shouldn't move forward with that flavor again.
Right.
And two, we were able to show them their numbers that correlated with the sales.
Yeah.
But,
That's interesting because you're almost suggesting that you also need to understand this community too. Like, what do they actually? Because like if you're saying that your community doesn't like weddings, you probably shouldn't be promoting things that involve weddings
right.
on your platform.
Right.
Well, and so knowing that, let's say medical businesses before they meet you. What are some of the things that they could be doing for themselves, to build their practices or build their social media, that are things that, are attainable for them to kind of do themselves, that, they could learn from you now? Like, what would you suggest for all medical businesses? Like, what do they need to start with?
Well, it goes back to what we were just talking about. You have to know you have to know your patrons, you have to know your clients, you have to know your patients.
Yeah.
You have to know these people that produce content, because when I'm looking at success too, I'm looking at, did we do something that was relevant?
Right.
So right now, beach vacations are coming up very soon in a few months. So what's going to be a hot surgery that people are going to be looking at? It's probably going to be a lot of body work. So
Gotta get that body.
Gotta get that body in line. But then, maybe in your community, you may have a group of people who are more interested in butts. Or maybe you may have people who are more interested in just having like that tiny waist. So, here in the South, no one's really looking for, that tiny itty bitty waist.
Oh, really? That's not a Southern thing.
It's not a big concern. Now,
Gotcha.
looking put together, I might have to rewind and freeze. We might have to cut this out. But
well, we don't want to talk about butts here.
No. I think what I'm trying to say is, like, based on your community, one surgery might be more desired than another.
Right. Okay.
So maybe one community may not want a lift, a breast. Well, everybody would probably want that, but who's going to actually go through and pay with it and book it?
How much do they actually want?
How much do you actually want it?
Yeah.
And so you have to remember your community that you have, and then the community that you foster. So just because you have that demographic, what are you trying to pull in? Because my job is to listen to the business owner. What are you trying to bring in? What are you trying to do? I'm not going to say, your demographic here all wants BBLs. Let's do BBLs and get those butts lifted.
Yeah.
Like, then they're like, no, this is not what we want to do. Maybe they don't even specialize in that.
Yeah.
So, I forgot the original question. I think
we got all on these BBLs, man. I'm all on a BBL right now. Let's say right now, you'll be seeing a new Josh coming soon. No, I'm just kidding. So if we were to recap that question, is what can medical practices be doing for themselves on social media to build their community?
Know your audience and know your goals. So if you know your audience, like I said, maybe that is the community for the surgery, and maybe your goal, it differs from that. Maybe your goal is, I want to perform more XYZs. You have to kind of know who you are and stay true to that. You have to get that all sorted out first. And then from there, what is your branding? Who do you identify with? What are we standing up for?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Is there a type of content that you would tell them, like, hey, focus on doing this first? Like, do this, do testimonial, or do something.
I'm going to sound like such a hypocrite, but I would say a little bit more education and then sprinkle in the personal stuff. Whereas most of the accounts that I work with, they're pretty well established on social. So what we do now that they're well established is we do a healthy mix. We don't lean more one way or the other. But if you're a brand new doctor and no one knows who you are, or you're coming on social for the first time, I would gladly suggest to you should definitely build your credentials in terms of education. You can also do other fun things too. Maybe you have a patient sheet that they fill out. Put the QR code on there and say to follow you.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can email them, hey, we have a new platform that we just created. So once you build up that community, and this is me giving advice thinking you already have patients.
Yeah.
You already have a slew of patients, but you created social for the first time. Am I ruining this?
Oh, no, you're great.
Okay.
You keep on going.
Yeah.
You finish that out. You make that happen.
Yeah. So this is my knowledge. If you do have an established practice, you just don't have established social media, I would say go in with your educational and sprinkle the personal. And then after maybe 6 months to a year, focus on who you are, your personal videos, things like that. But
Love it.
you never want to do too much personal either.
Yeah. Nice sweet spot right in the middle.
A nice sweet spot, yeah, because your job is to still cater to your patients. You want to cater to them and give them content that they actually want to see. So oftentimes for the educational videos, those videos are ideas from the doctors, but some of the times they're ideas from our team. You know, hey, we've been getting a lot of questions about this. Hey, people have been asking us about this. Hey, based on our research, other practices do this around this time, or you know, you want to keep things local and demographic specific too. Hey, with Jazz Fest and festival season coming up, XYZ. So it's a lot of research. It's not just, okay, let's sit and talk about a rhinoplasty.
Right.
You know, or let's sit and talk about a Mohs surgery, you know.
A Mohs surgery?
Mohs surgery. So that would be skin cancer. Skin cancer removal. Gotcha. But yeah, so it's all based on relevancy, where you are, what is something that your people actually want to watch and listen to or see in terms of a graphic. So there's so many components that go into it. But my advice is to just start strong with education.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Well, I can't say enough about, I could sit here and talk med doctors and community building all day, but at some point we got to wrap this thing up. So Allison, thank you so much for joining me. Tell me, where can people find you? Online, social media, all that good stuff.
Okay, we have a website. It's www.uptowngirl.media.
Ooh, spicy. A little media in there.
A little media in there.
Okay.
So it boosts our SEO.
Oh,
you know, it's fun.
I love it.
You can also find us on Instagram, on Facebook. We do have TikTok. However, we're not active on TikTok.
We
just have the name reserved.
Okay, I love it. Okay.
We don't have enough time with all of our clients.
Wow.
But our handle is just our name.
Okay.
Super busy.
Cool.
But always blessed.
Awesome. Well, we're busy here too, folks. Don't you worry. We'll have another one coming soon. But thank you so much for joining me. And that's been Make Marketing Make Sense. Yabba yabba do.
Yabba yabba do.
This has been Make Marketing Make Sense, brought to you by ComfyStone. If you need video content for social media, your website, or email marketing, hit up ComfyStone at comfystone.com and follow ComfyStone on Instagram and TikTok. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.